Welcome to Your College Bound Kid,
a podcast for parents, college counselors, students, and anyone who wants a deep dive into the world of college admissions.
My name is Julia. I was an admission officer at Haverford College, an outside reader for Emory University, and I currently work as a school-based counselor at a school in Massachusetts.
I'm Mark Stucker, and I'm the founder and producer. Our mission is to make college knowledge available to all. We care deeply about your kid. We believe college is a match to be made and not a prize to be won. We believe in being genuine and transparent. We are committed to covering a variety of topics, including the tough subjects. Thanks to your generosity, we're committed to providing a minimum of 10 hours of fresh, commercial-free content every month, with episodes every Monday and Thursday. We have a variety of co-hosts because we believe and value diverse perspectives. You're our listening family, and we get great joy every time we meet with you, as we do our best to give you tools so your students can soar and reach their limitless potential. Friends, on this week's episode, Julia and I will continue our discussion. What do you do if you're deferred or waitlisted? It's part 2 of 3. And then we've got a brand new interview for you. Lisa will interview Matt Beatty, and he'll be talking about his school that he's very passionate about, Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. Listen and enjoy.
And now this week's interview with a special guest.
Friends, hopefully you enjoyed the first part of Julia and I discussing letters of continued interest. Now you'll hear part 2. Now, one thing it does say in here that I thought I do like, it says, when you're considering what you want to update the admissions committee on, try to pick things that relate to your overall application theme. I actually like that. It says if you wrote about your interest in politics in your essays, tell them how you recently won a Model UN competition. As a result, you got to visit the UN headquarters in New York, where you envision yourself as a diplomat. I think that's important. It's the whole idea of, your compelling narrative or reducing your whole application to one sentence, like staying on message. Like if you've been Mr. Robotics all over the time and now you come back and you're talking a lot about like creative writing, I just think it just can add a bit of confusion. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Julia?
Totally agree. And actually, I've gotten that feedback from a college before where I had a student try to sort of introduce sort of something new. And then the college actually told us, like, it just seemed like this student was trying to grasp at anything. And then we couldn't really figure out exactly what the impact would be. So I totally agree with you on that, Mark. The other thing I find, if maybe you don't have an award or some sort of accolade or something tangible to show for your progress in one of your interests. But one of my favorite things that my students do is, let's say they've applied for engineering, they'll usually share about like a unit or an experiment they did in one of their lab-based science classes and how it sort of reaffirmed what they like about the process of designing something and puzzling through a challenge. Or I had a student, if they apply for English, about their favorite book that they just read in class and what they got out of it. Or even at Milton, we have a very hefty sort of term paper requirement in our year-long social science classes. And they'll go on to say like what the research process was like and how it really exposed them to new ideas and thinking about historical trends in a different way. So you don't have to have like won an award or something like that in your area of interest, but being able to further expand on how your brain thinks and where your passion is as well is really helpful here.
No, I really liked all of those examples. That was good stuff. So this is not in the article, but I want to ask you this question. What advice do you give to your students? Let me see if we line up here as to when to send the letter. And I'm not talking about something I worked with earlier today with a student, which was, you probably have some of these, Julie. You know how Chicago defers their EAs and they give you an opportunity to flip to ED2? That's different because that's a really short timeline. I'm helping a few people with those, actually. I remember somebody asked a while ago, how does Chicago have such a high yield? How do they do it?
Yep.
Well, they do a lot of flipping of early action to ED2. That's how they do it.
Yep.
Anyway, we're working on that. But I'm not talking about flipping to ED2. If you have a student that, let's say it's got a school with one round of early action, like the Northwesterns and the Dukes and the Ivies, those kinds of schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
When do you tell them they should send their LLCI?
Great question. And I'm glad you brought this up because I actually find that instinctively, a lot of students feel like, oh, I just got deferred. I want to do something about it right now. And they want to fire off a letter right away. Don't do that. I actually, I think so. If you are you got notified in the month of December, I usually have students send or upload their deferral letter in their portal by mid-February. And honestly, sometimes I've seen it be totally fine in late February. What I can tell on this side of the desk, and also it was true when I was on the other side of the desk, is that essentially if you're a deferred student, you get re-reviewed your whole application with the regular decision pool, but that's usually right before the college goes to committee. So they've read their applications. They're now going to go discuss most of their applications. At that point, the admission officer is now going to read any new information that is now in your file. So most admission officers, I think, are mostly rereading your file closer to those committee dates, which tend to be the month of March. So I like to give it as much time as possible. So your information is fresh, and also your letter is fresh, right? That's going to go right. It's going to feel very timely. Your admission officer is reading it right before they re-review you to consider you. So I like to say I have some students that do it in late January. But if you think about it, it's been maybe less than 2 months, since you've applied. So I like to say, around early to mid-February to send that letter of continued interest.
Yeah, I knew we agreed on that. So, there's many reasons why I stop my students when they want to do what you said, because that's how most of them do. So most of them act like they think speed is actually going to help them.
Right.
you know, but there's several reasons why I don't like that. One is what Julia said. For one, you don't have any updates, you might have some more meaningful updates if you give it a little bit more time.
Yes.
Two, it's closer to when it would be looked at anyway. But another thing to me that's important is I think that, a lot of times people want to do it because it's sort of like the reflexive thing to a bruised ego. And it seems more reflective if, and I'll put myself on the admission side. If I have someone that, let's say 2 months after this happened, is still reaffirming that I want to come to your school, well, I know several things by now. I know that they didn't commit ED2 somewhere. They're not in some ED2 pool or that, Julie and I see this a lot. I had a student a few years ago who never got into a school where their parent was an alumni interviewer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this student was like, screw them. I'm not even applying. I'm done with them. If they don't want me, then I don't want them. And they did end up getting in schools equally as selective. So the point is, when you reaffirm your interest a little bit later, I have a better chance of thinking that you're going to be yieldable.
Right.
And that it's genuine. But when you just do it right away, you're mostly probably responding to the moment.
Yes.
Friends, I mentioned sampling briefly, but while editing, I felt compelled to emphasize it a little more. Yield is so important at admissions, and most schools that have early decision 2 or ED2 let students know by February 15th if they are admitted. So if you submit your LOCI in mid-February, but after 2/15 notification date, it not only will be well before the private colleges need to know this, but you also have the added advantage of the college knowing that you didn't apply ED2 somewhere and got admitted and you're not available. A sizable number of students who apply ED1 take their shot at ED2. And it's not unusual for a student to submit an LOCI and then apply ED2 elsewhere and get admitted. So the college doesn't necessarily know that just because you submit it, an LOCI, that you are yieldable or even free to even be recruited. But if you submit this after ED2 decisions are released, the added benefit is the school knowing that you are not committed elsewhere to another school. Now, very important that you look at deadlines. For public schools that offer early action, sometimes they'll give you a deadline for their deferral response or the LOCI in January. So this is where public and private colleges can sometimes vary. In fact, I was working with a student 2 weeks ago on their Florida State deferral response, and Florida State has deadline of January 10th. So pay attention to explicit deadlines that colleges share with you in their correspondence communication or in their portals. So I think that's important too, you know? Mm-hmm. Now, from your experience, Julia, when something's re-reviewed, do you feel it's re-reviewed from scratch, or do you think they're looking at the ratings like 4, 4, 3? They kind of have a tier, maybe look at the stuff they reaffirmed, and mostly going back to someone that meets an institutional need that the school might have and more reading that closer to that pool?
Great question. I think it is the latter. I think it is. I think it's on a full reread. I think it's relooking at sort of the ratings. A lot of colleges also, when they read an application, provide some kind of narrative or prose about, this is what I read in the essays. This teachers say this about the student. So maybe reading those, but not the essays from top to bottom or the recs from top to bottom. And I would hope that also that any new pieces of information in the application does get a full read.
Yeah, it's really important. I said this to a family this week that's deferred at one of those super selective schools. And then I was meeting with the student and the mom, and then the mom said, in a very respectful way, she said, well, it says right here it will be reviewed. And then I had to sort of say, well, there's different levels of review. Yeah. It's not incorrect that it's reviewed, but there's not 3 readers rereading every essay and starting from scratch and reassigning new ratings, Right. They're picking up. Julia's so right. And I never mentioned that. A lot of times there's like a paragraph or just an overall, fit on a short. I mean, this is short. It's not a full page. The overall succinct description of a kid, that with ratings, new updates. It is important to remember that different schools do things differently. It's certainly possible that some schools go back from scratch and read everything with fresh eyes. I'm not aware of any. I know that most schools just do not have the time to approach things this way. One thing we should say, you can do all of this stuff perfectly and not get in. In fact, at the most selective schools, it's usually what happens, because think about it. I know some of what we're talking about is deferral, and sometimes we can conflate deferral and wait list. They are a little different, and they're similar, right? It's the same kind of process, usually meaning you were acceptable but not strong enough to get one of the original spots. And so in a certain extent, you're like an insurance policy. But the difference is with the wait list, there's not another round coming in. So with the deferral process, a lot of it can be, well, I kind of want to see how you compare to the regular round.
Yep.
That's a big part of it. And then when schools go back and then they look at, every school has a view in their mind of what a balanced class is. And when they go back and if they feel, oh, we were a little soft in this area, then they'll go back and say, okay, who was admissible, which would be like the wait list at, kids. And I always have to be careful when I talk about this, because sometimes my mind conflates waitlisted deferral, and then I have to catch myself. It's so easy to think of them because they're both sort of like insurance policies, right? But acceptable kids, they weren't the strongest insurance policies, but once again, with the wait list, there is no another round coming. All right. So then the article closes out with a letter. Well, actually, before it does that, it says, I want to know your thoughts on this. Infuse your personality into letter, whether that be through humor, personal stories, show qualities that like perseverance and curiosity. Any thoughts on that, Julia?
I would say just like with when you're doing the original application, you should really be yourself. If you're if you're not comfortable or didn't write in a quirky, funny way to begin with, this is not your time to try that. I actually do see this happen. My students feel like this is my last chance to stand out, and they end up doing something pretty different in terms of a writing style and format. And actually every time, I can't think of one other time, it is so far in the wrong direction that I am like, if you submit this, we have lost all hope here. I had a student write a love letter as a defer. And while I thought that was kind of cute when they explained it, it was wildly inappropriate at the end. And so I would say just be your authentic self. But if you're treating this as in the spirit of how you originally applied, and also as another opportunity to say more and add more to your app, stay in that range of authenticity and in the same spirit of the supplements, be showing the college something that shows your fit and shows what your characteristics are that you hope to bring.
And that's exactly what I had hoped you were going to say. It just rubbed me a little wrong when it said infuse your personality through humor, because I've seen students sort of feel like they need to do something different. And my immediate thought was, okay, I don't know. I just pictured somebody trying to become stand-up comic with a one-liner.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
You know?
It does go off the rails more often than not in defers. I have seen defer letters, these LOCI letters, than any other thing.
Yeah. So then it closes with an example, and I want to just read it because I think there are a lot of really good things in here. So, and it says, when it says CMD, that's their term for college of my dreams.
Yeah.
So, so dear CMD, all right. I would like to sincerely thank the CMD admissions committee for taking the time to look through my application amongst thousands of applicants and offering me an opportunity to join the waitlist. CMD is my dream school, and if accepted off the waitlist, I would happily attend. I would like to take this opportunity to display my continued interest in CMD and update the admissions committee on my accomplishments. And then it goes on to list a whole bunch of these accomplishments. I thought Julie and I both thought it was a little long. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to read about the guy scoring 34 points in the game and all this stuff that it said. It was like 3 paragraphs. So I won't read it. It's pretty lengthy, and we kind of think it should be shorter. But then it says, CMD has distinguished itself as a top institution for me. I'm continuously in awe as I read about the amazing work in helping students achieve their dreams. I would like to thank the office once again for reviewing my application, and I would eagerly matriculate if offered a position in the class. Thoughts, Julia?
Yes, I actually thought you agreed on all parts as you did, but this is exactly what I see as a good defer letter, is that I got a sense from this example about what a student had been up to, but also why it was important to them. And then it was easy for me to figure out how they might be able to contribute to campus through those activities and interests. And then the sort of really lovely piece about these very specific pieces about the college that speak to them. I also do co-sign on the idea of ending your letter with like, I, if accepted, I would attend. And I would hope that, and I have gotten this feedback from colleges, I would hope you would only write that if that's really the case. Mm-hmm. And if you're not sure, there's other ways to express your interest without essentially having to hyper or, sort of embellish or, so sometimes for my students who feel they need to send a defer letter, but it's not their first choice, but they want to make sure they stay competitive. They say like, I remain this school, or you remain one of my top colleges. And maybe that's a little risky because then there's other stuff there, obviously. But I've had colleges tell me, please don't have your students say you're my first choice in this unless we really are their first choice. If I don't want my student sending to 3 colleges deferred letters saying you're my first choice, and I would definitely attend. So I do think you need to be authentic, but I definitely co-sign on the idea of ending the letter with a very nice commitment to the college if that's authentic to you.
I agree 100% with everything you said. So I thought that the letter struck a really good upbeat, appreciative tone, and it started out really nicely positive. And I agree 100% with Julia. I like the idea of saying twice, reaffirming your commitment to enroll if you will, in fact, make that commitment, but you cannot make that commitment unless you're genuine. It's funny, Julia, the things that we remember. So I am still upset. I have to tell a story here. This is like 2006. And so I'm doing boarding school admissions. And with boarding school admissions, you work with a placement director that's just exactly like what Julia does. And they're working with their class, especially if they're coming from a private school. So there's a student, and she was on my caseload. And she was not an easy admit. Like it was one of those ones we debated for a long time at committee. And we even had special committee where, have you have special committee, you have like experts come in and all this stuff. And speak to their area. Someone look at the writing. Someone spoke on this, that, the other. It was a long time that we deliberated. I was in there pushing for her. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I was pushing for her was she had clearly affirmed, this is my dream school. I want to come so badly. So to make a long story short, she doesn't come. Mm-hmm. So I'm following up with the placement person, which is like the college counselor at the school. And I was like, I won't say his name, but I was like, I have to admit, I'm a little salty because I really expended political capital. So Julia knows this. You can expend political capital at committee because you can't go fight for every kid. Then you're like the person crying wolf.
Yep.
Right? So you have to pick and choose your battles. So I expended a lot of political capital, fighting for her, and then she doesn't come. Mm-hmm. And then the placement director said, I found out she did that to 4 different schools.
Yeah.
I was hot, and I'm still hot.
Yes. Oh, I still remember mine. Also a girl from the South. Also a college counselor that told me definitely will come. And then, no, they went to Pomona. So
see, we still carry these wounds with us.
Absolutely. And it made and honestly too, and you can lose some of that political clout that you had where, Haverford was such a small school that we really, one student is too many, right? So being able to really fight for this student and whatnot. And that was my one I could really get through. And then bloop. So do you think people wanted to listen to me and my favorite students off of the wait list or defers the year after? No.
And the other thing I'll say too is you can lose credibility as a counselor if you're affirming this
100%
and people don't come.
Yep.
Or if you're signing ED commitments and then people back out.
Ooh, yes.
Because now it's I can't trust you.
Right.
And then trust is everything, right? It's all about trust. And so now I can't trust you. So just a few more tips. But I thought this was a really good article. I thought we had a really good, robust conversation. I kind of feel like we covered all the main points. Is there anything you didn't feel we covered, Julia? I'm not thinking of anything.
I would just like to put a plug in for following the college's specific instructions about an LOCI.
I'm so glad you told me that.
And shout out to some colleges who are much more clear than others. So some schools will actually go right to waitlist rather than defer, and they'll even have a waitlist form that you fill out. So please follow those instructions. And sometimes those actually, I find the waitlist forms have far more ideas about them than a LOCI, for example, from a defer for an early. So they might, Michigan, for example, says on this date, please provide just one paragraph that says these things if you're interested in staying on the waitlist. But some schools like Yale in particular last year actually wrote to its deferred early action applicants please don't send anything more. We do not need it. But they said, it's not encouraged. And guess what? All of my students did it because even though it said it's not encouraged, what if one student did it and then the other ones didn't? And then they would look like they're not as interested as the other students. So I do believe it. When a college says it's not encouraged, I really do believe that, and that they wouldn't like that. They don't have a lot of time to read more information. So if they're saying they don't encourage it, they really do mean that. But especially if the college is very clear, please do not send us more materials, or including a letter of continued interest. Please pay attention to that, because you're kind of taking up space and not following instructions, and that's not going to endear you in the regular decision pool if you're deferred.
Julia, I am so glad you brought that up. This is an extremely important point that the article didn't mention explicitly, and I was thinking about it when I was prepping for this, and then I forgot. This is the first thing I do every single time when someone says that they're deferred. I'm like, let's look at the exact language. Mm. And so I had 2 cases this week. And I was working with the family, and I know you get this a lot, too, because I always get it. One of the people's go-to things is to try to get a letter from somebody.
Yes.
People want to go get a letter. And a lot of times schools do not want that. The overwhelming majority of the times, in fact, certainly there are exceptions, but most of the time they do not want additional letters of rec coming in.
They don't.
And so you have to follow those instructions. So I was going through it, and it was giving very explicit instructions about what was acceptable and what wasn't, and even before today, Julie and I were texting, and I was saying, if maybe it was last night, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday. My days are morphing together, Julia.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But I was saying, if I was in admissions, I would be even more aggressive. I really would, because I see everybody just takes that little sliver and they want to do more. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
And so, was it Michigan a few years ago? I think now the school's starting to get confused in my mind. That sort of indicated, like, if you don't follow our instructions, it will be worse for you or harder. Yeah. Was it Michigan? I think it was that.
Carnegie Mellon has gotten, they've been fun with their waitlist forms, but I think they're getting closer to being ethical and clear. And they have basically started to spell out for students, you just do this very thing and do not do more. It won't work out.
Yeah, I really would, because my experience is people just want to, just take that inch and go for it. And
yes.
And I get it. A lot of times people are successful. They're highly accomplished. They're used to getting their way, maybe running businesses, whatever. And it just feels passive to not. And also they're feeling like other people are going to be doing it. So I have to get the edge.
Exactly.
I have to get the edge. That's the mindset. And I try to tell people, like, part of it is a test of, can you follow instructions?
Right.
So that's extremely important. And then I was working with another student on a deferral. This one was yesterday, and we were pulling it up and reading it. And it said right in there, no letters of recommendations.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I've learned this the hard way, Julia, to not rely on my institutional history knowledge of a school, because it could change on me from year to year.
It does. It really does. Yeah.
So that's my first thing, even for myself. Like, before I say anything, I'm like, let me look at the exact wording. And I almost have like my magnifying glass out there, because I know every word was carefully crafted and chosen.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We almost forgot a big one. I would have been like, Julia, we need to go record and insert and add it to the end. Thank you.
Of course.
Friends, this concludes part 2 of 3. Next week, we'll have a final part that's 100% brand new content. Now let's transition to a brand new interview. Lisa will interview Matt Beatty, the VP of Enrollment at Luther College in Decorah, Iowa.
And now it's time for our College Spotlight of the Week.
So, friends, before we get into Lisa's Spotlight with Matt Beatty from Luther College, I want you to hear a question a listener sent in that you'll see related to Luther College. And I want you to know that the same thing this listener said and did, which was make a case that we should interview a particular person in leadership at a particular school, that's something you can do. Now, no guarantees. We'll evaluate each request as they come in, but we're very open to that. We try to strike a balance between unheralded gems like the Luther Colleges, of the world, and household names. So we try to strike a balance. So we're looking for both types. But one of the things sometimes that ends up making one school getting prioritized over another is we've got someone ready on the other end, ready to do the interview, as opposed to having to reach out to them or get through a gatekeeper. So if you want us to feature a school you haven't seen featured, then listen to what Megan did, because this is the way to do it. And I'll tell you, this is a special spotlight. After I heard the spotlight, it's a college I'm not familiar with, I said to myself, you know what? I'm 2 hours away from Luther College when I'm in Minneapolis at the NACAC conference in 2026. I'm going to go check out Luther College. I got to get there. All that because a listener sent in a SpeakPipe message. Take a listen to what Megan has to say.
Hi there. My name is Megan Lind Fox, and I'm a listener from Omaha, Nebraska. I have twins who are seniors in high school, and I also have a sophomore. So this college stuff is getting really real, really fast. And even though I still feel kind of overwhelmed, I'm so thankful for your podcast. It's just been super helpful. Today I'm calling because I wanted to suggest a school to you that I think you should consider featuring. It's called Luther College, and it's a small liberal arts school located in Decorah, Iowa. Decorah is a really charming and vibrant town of about 8,000 people in Northeast Iowa. Very Norwegian, a little quirky. It's just a really great community. It's in what's called the Driftless region, which is quite unique. This area, glaciers missed it during the last ice age. So it's full of bluffs and waterfalls. Yes, believe it or not, there are actually some waterfalls in Iowa. Who would have thought? Rolling hills, valleys, and trout streams. Anyway, there's a ton of great outdoor stuff to do if you're into nature. And the town of Decorah often appears on lists of best small towns, places like Architectural Digest, HGTV, Forbes, Smithsonian Magazine. Anyway, it's been on a lot of those kinds of lists. So it's a pretty ideal setting for a student who loves natural beauty, doesn't mind the four seasons, or being in a small town. As for Luther College, I really think it deserves more attention outside of the upper Midwest. It's actually been named one of the top hidden gem colleges in Iowa and in the Plains region by College Raptor for several years. I don't know how many years, for several years running now. But I think, honestly, it's too hidden. And that is one of the reasons I'm contacting you now, because I really think it deserves more attention and visibility. The admissions person I'm going to put you in touch with can share more about what makes Luther stand out. There are many things. I will let him get into all of the academic things in the community. But one thing I really think you should ask him about, though, is the music department. It's absolutely phenomenal and something that sets Luther apart from other schools. If you pull up the Luther website, in fact, you'll even notice that music has its own tab on the homepage, because that's how important it is there. I can't speak much to the athletics department because that's not really my area, but I do know they recently got a major donation to upgrade the field house, so that could be worth asking about as well. Okay, the contact info you'll need. I've been in touch with the vice president for enrollment management at Luther. His name is Matt Beatty, and he said he would be happy to do an interview with you. And he even mentioned that perhaps the president of Luther, Brad Chamberlain, might be open to coming on the podcast too. But I haven't personally spoken to Brad, so I don't know for sure. But Matt Beatty is your guy. His last name is spelled B as in boy, Eatty. And his email address is Beatty, that's BEATTYMA @luther.edu. And one last thing I wanted to mention too is that if you're open to it, if you would consider this, I think it would be great to add Luther to your Minnesota college tour in 2026 that I heard you mention on the podcast. Decorah is actually just over the border, the Minnesota-Iowa border, and it's about 2 hours south of Northfield. I would imagine you might be visiting St. Olaf and Carleton on that tour, and Luther is not that far from there. So I think it would make an easy addition to your route if you have the time or the inclination to visit Decorah. Anyway, thank you so much for considering this addition to your podcast. If you have any questions, you can reach me, Megan, at mfox, that's F as in Frank, OX, at jasonfox.net. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Okay, friends, we're going to transition to Lisa's interview with Matt Beatty. But before we do, I want to give you a preview. And I decided to just run the whole thing. A lot of times I'd do a two-parter. We typically do about 20 minutes a segment. This whole thing's like 42 minutes. I'm just going to run the whole thing as a one-parter today. So Matt gives his bio and he tells us about the location of Luther in Decorah, Iowa. Matt shares what he feels is the most special thing about Luther College. Matt tells us about what Paideia is at Luther and why that's important. Matt talks about the music programs at Luther, including their award-winning 4-day holiday program and the music tradition that has gone on for over 150 years. Matt talks about the unique partnership Luther's nursing program has with the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. Matt talks about the unique Norwegian studies program that Luther offers. He talks about the flexibility of the curriculum, the distinctive marketing program, the commitment to sustainability and environmental studies. And he tells us a little bit more about the student body and the sports program at Luther. He talks about what their admissions requirements are, what the ideal student is, their generous merit scholarships, and where their students are from. And finally, he closes out with a few words about campus beauty and more information about Decorah, Iowa. Listen and enjoy.
Hi, this is Lisa. I'm one of the co-hosts for this podcast, and I am really excited to be here today with Matthew Ross Beatty. He is the Director of Admissions, is that right?
Vice President for
Oh, I'm
enrollment.
sorry.
Yeah, that's
Vice
okay.
President for Enrollment at Luther
Yeah.
College, and he's going to talk about Luther College, which, from all accounts, is a hidden gem college that is located in the Midwest in Iowa. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Lisa. So glad to be here with you today.
So can you tell us about your position and how you got to where you are as the Vice President of Enrollment?
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a privilege to serve as Vice President for Enrollment here at Luther College. So again, Matt Beatty, I grew up in Minnesota, so I'm a Midwest native. I actually went to college here as a student, an undergraduate student at Luther, went off to do graduate school up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I served for a number of years in international recruitment and international services at several other institutions before ultimately coming back as the Director of Admissions just a few years ago here at Luther, and now serving in this new capacity.
Well, that's great. And kind of you've come full circle then.
Yeah, it's been great to be here, and my wife's a Luther grad, and now to have our twin boys and being able to raise them in Decorah.
Yeah. So, that brings up, where is Decorah, Iowa? Tell us more about that, and the size of the town and how many students are attending Luther.
Yeah. So Luther's located in this beautiful Decorah, Iowa setting. This is a scenic, very vibrant town of about 9,000 residents, nestled here in this Midwest, this driftless region, as they call it in the Midwest. The town is known for a lot of natural beauty, with an 11-mile bike trail that's paved around the whole town. There's 23 parks and outdoor gathering spaces right along the beautiful Upper Iowa River. So lots of outdoor enthusiasts and opportunities to get outside. The college has about 1,400 students from over 40 states and nearly 70 countries. So it brings a real vibrant dimension and activity and cultural life to this space, to this region of Northeast Iowa.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, so much of the Midwest is completely flat. And that is because, in the Ice Age, the glaciers came down and they just scraped all of the top layer of land off, and then they dropped it off, kind of like where I grew up. It was in like the foothills of the Ozarks. So that's sort of
Yeah.
where all the rest of the Midwest ended up. But you guys got skipped, and that is why it looks amazing. So you're driving, through the Midwest, and all of a sudden, oh my God, hills, creeks, the whole 9 yards. That's what it used to look like, the whole place, I guess.
No, you're absolutely right, Lisa. I love to hear your description through this. This is kind of a place where you have to see it to believe it. This rugged terrain in Iowa, people are like, this doesn't make sense. I'm thinking of cornfields and flat terrain, and what we have here are rivers and trout streams and bluffs and all this other kind of really beautiful exposed rock that provides a great dimension, again, for those that live and can take advantage of the area.
That's great. So I know we're going to get into this in more detail, but like, what in a nutshell would you say is like the most special thing about Luther College?
Oh, wow. This is such an amazing place. And I guess as I think about it, it combines academic excellence with this genuine community. Students are challenging themselves. They're also, though, feeling super supported from their coaches and conductors and faculty and even their peers. So just this, not just a fancy mission about community and space, but a place where our students are actually practicing this. They're doing this they're making a difference. And so that means, I guess, when they graduate, that they're leading lives of impact. And so I think our alumni and other current students, this is often what I hear from our student ambassadors when they sit on a panel, as they talk about just this amazing place where they can blend a few of these things together.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it starts, I think, freshman year, right? You've got some really distinctive entry programs into the school. Can you tell us about those?
Absolutely. No, it does start our first year, and it's been a long. This is one of our traditions, but long-standing distinctive programs. One is Paideia, which is an ancient Greek term which means upbringing. And so I don't know, maybe Luther's been really good at upbringing students for a long time, but Paideia is really the cornerstone for our first year students. It's a seminar that brings big ideas together. It helps new college students strengthen their writing and reading and critical thinking skills, and really launches them for a successful collegiate career.
Yeah, that's great. And so, do they have any like trips or, like a lot of schools will have like a pre, freshman year trip where you go camping with your
Yeah,
classmates or things like that?
we do have some of that through our Endeavor Together program that will take students off campus to do some leadership and training there. The Paideia unique in the sense that very close knit with 10 or 12 students. Some of them will go to community programs off campus. Some of them will obviously bring in guest speakers and others that are alums who are doing things in different areas. And uh, usually they'll have the speaker of kind of their first book that they read come to campus and talk about that too. So that's been super exciting as ways to build community, to learn together, and to help first year students, I guess, really be thinking about what college means to them.
Yeah, that's great. Um, and of course, you're a liberal arts college, so you've got all the liberal arts things. But you also have some more unusual things. And I guess I would say, like, your music program is sort of extremely well known and very well, I guess, participated in by all of your students. Tell us more about music at Luther.
Yeah. The way we talk about it often at Luther here is that music is for everyone. And so within our incoming class, we have just over 40% that are going to be participating in music, but only maybe 15% are actually going to major in music performance or music education. So this is a place where students who are interested in music or want to learn a new instrument or sing in the choir can do so without having to sacrifice other commitments. And so that means a really beautiful blend of voices and backgrounds and student interests in our music program. And they will tour all over the place and share that joy with others.
And you had mentioned there's like a holiday program that the students all work together to create. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is you're spot on, Lisa. This is Christmas at Luther has been a long-standing tradition. It's a beloved Luther tradition here. Is an Emmy award-winning holiday production that brings together students and alumni and others really from across the nation for about 4 days. And so as I mentioned, this long-standing event that showcases the incredible talent of multiple ensembles on stage. It's usually one of my favorite events to go to and attend early in December and kind of kick off the holiday season.
Yeah, and like an incredibly high number, right, percentage of students participates. Like over half the school is doing this.
Nearly half the school. It's several hundreds of students that will do that in a variety of ways through either the orchestra or the choirs, or they're involved in some of the music theater and the production side of things. And so it's faculty are starting to already check off and block off some dates and times in preparation for this.
That's great. And then nursing. So I know nursing's a very hot major. Tell us about your program.
Yeah, so nursing is a competitive program here with the respect of a limited number of seats. Luther College has had a partnership with the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, a world famous healthcare facility, for nearly 50 years. And so students will start here at Luther. They will take their preliminary classes around physiology and anatomy and intro to some of the nursing areas. And ultimately, their last year will be spent in Rochester, Minnesota, at a residence there that they'll be continue to take class, but also be doing rotations in multiple departments in the Mayo Clinic and St. Mary's Hospital and other areas. So a lot of our students that are interested in doing something of that sort or have a keen identified that as an area that they'd like to pursue will take full advantage of that.
Mhm. And so with nursing, is it direct admit?
So yes, for those that are eligible, with a eligible GPA of a roughly 3.3 in high school, may be directly admitted right into our nursing program. We will also look at doing an intake after the first year for depending on how current students are performing and if on a space available basis.
Mhm. And is nursing test optional, or do they have to submit ACTs or SATs for that?
Great question. It is test optional presently. Don't have plans on changing it, but obviously being selective and knowing kind of how students are performing and monitoring their progress, that's where we're at presently with the admission requirements.
That's great. And then my personal favorite that I would study if I went to Luther's Norwegian Studies. Tell me about that major.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Norwegian Studies is an incredibly popular and niche program, and so kind of unusual as you were leading into there. Luther is the oldest Norwegian American institution of higher education in the United States, and so our Scandinavian heritage really shines in programs like Nordic Studies and opportunities to bring dozens of students to Norway and other Nordic countries. We also have a partnership with Vesterheim Museum, which is a Norwegian American museum right here in Decorah, providing lots of opportunities to explore folk art and to meet with other uh, dignitaries and visitors and practice Norwegian and Norwegian culture as well.
Mm. Yeah, and didn't you tell me, like, was it the Crown Prince of Norway came and visited your school like a little bit ago?
Yeah, the Crown Prince of Norway was just here about 10 days ago and part of a mini tour throughout parts of the United States. So we had a chance to meet the Royal Highness Prince Haakon and was delighted to share some space and time and offer and real honor him with a honorary degree here from Luther College.
That's exciting. Um, so now you've got these majors, and of course you've got all the other majors. Can students double major? Can they minor? What does a typical,
Yeah.
curriculum look like for students?
Great question. And this is truly, I think, another of Luther's strengths here, where nearly a quarter of our students will double major. And so the curriculum is designed for flexibility, for some students to explore different programs and majors, some of that we just spoke about, as well as some of the minors and concentrations. But yeah, by the end of it, roughly 23 to 25% of our graduates have a double major and still finishing in 4 years. So that's pretty remarkable and something that we are proud of.
Mhm. Are there any limitations on what they can combine, or is sort of, the sky the limit? You make it your own kind of thing?
Yeah, there are. I mean, there are. I think of some programs like nursing, for example, that make it somewhat challenging because of the off-campus clinical rotations that to do that. That said, faculty here are willing to be creative and flexible and think about some independent studies, maybe something over the summer, in order to satisfy major requirements for multiple programs.
That's great. Um, Now, I know we had talked earlier, and you'd mentioned that there are some things coming up on the horizon for Luther. What are some of the things that you guys are excited about that are going to be happening?
Yeah, it's been such a wonderful season for Luther College. We recently welcomed in our new 12th president for Luther, Brad Chamberlain, who was on faculty for about 17 years as a chemistry professor and then in some administrative roles. We are in the midst of a $24 million renovation to the Jardine Fieldhouse and athletic and wellness facility. This is still under construction, which has been a lot of fun to see different phases of the renovation. In essence, though, the arena style is going to seat nearly 2,000 viewers for programs in like basketball and wrestling and volleyball. It's also going to have a whole new wrestling facility, as well as some renovated lockers and other spaces for teams to gather. So that's one really cool program that's under development, and I can't wait to see how that finishes and being able to bring visitors to there. One other one that I'm just going to highlight, another program that I'm glad that we can stand up is marketing major within our management area. So we have kind of had classes in marketing before, but this is going to be an opportunity then for them to analyze market research, to look at consumer data, to apply marketing theories and evaluate business trends to earn that credential. And for some areas and concentrations in sports marketing and digital marketing, as well as promotional marketing.
Mhm. Yeah, and so in your management program, like, can students get like a business major, or is it called management? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So we have several different majors that are business related. So business management is the major there. We have an accounting major and an economics major. Now marketing, we offer classes in finance, and obviously a variety of different areas there that are preparing students to explore the business industry, if you will.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's nice because some liberal arts colleges don't have that. And so here a student could explore that and, like, Nordic studies, for
Exactly,
example.
you're absolutely right, and many will do that, and there have some of our graduates have gone on then to be able to tie those together, and some international business areas are continuing to provide some of their knowledge within Nordic studies, but also from the business realm.
Yeah, what about, I have in my notes, and I can't remember why I wrote this down, sustainability. I've underlined. Tell me about the sustainability programs or measures or,
I,
um,
So, yeah, this is a really important value for Luther College is around sustainability. And so, from a broad perspective, the college is always thinking about ways of ethics and thinking about programs around the environment and how to pay it forward. On an academic realm, we have a sustainability and environmental studies program where students can specialize in two different areas. One is going to be around social change and sustainability. I guess be thinking about those who might be involved in community organizations or outreach or environmental justice, environmental policy. Those types of things work really well for that sustainability environmental studies specialization. The other kind of niche or trend there is environmental studies around programs that overlap with scientific study. Programs, if you are interested in understanding how to preserve natural spaces and restore the environment in different areas, this could be another really cool program that falls within it. But year over year, Luther is recognized on different areas of sustainability. On a good day, we have enough, sustainable resources that will support all of our energy here on campus through the wind turbine and the solar panel field. Something that we're really proud of to be able to do and execute on.
yeah, that's great. So tell me a little bit more about like the student community. So it's a residential college, is that correct?
It is. It's a nearly 100%, almost 100% residential. So our 1,400 students, roughly, they live in a variety of residence halls. Some of it has programming. There's kind of there are two first year halls at Ilva Soccer, if you like some Norwegian names there, and Brandt Hall. But being able to do that and then, yeah, providing services and programs right here in the heart of campus.
Hmm. And then, so is there Greek life at Luther?
We have several. I think we have two sororities and one current fraternity. Rumor has it there may be another one or two fraternity proposals on the docket for our student council to consider. There's some Greek life. There's nearly 70 different student organizations. I'm thinking Ultimate Frisbee. We have an equestrian club. We have student government and leadership roles. A whole host of areas for students to get involved in, obviously outside of the classroom, outside of their sports teams and music departments as well.
Hmm. Yeah. And then sports.
24 varsity sports that we offer for a variety of men and women sports that are also equally popular. I would say about a third of our students roughly are student athletes, and it provides a really exciting environment to be able to cheer them on. And as I mentioned, with the new renovation to the Jardine Fieldhouse, some really neat ways to get involved there.
Yeah. So, what are some of your big traditions? I know we talked about Christmas at Luther, but what are some other fun traditions?
Glad you asked. I would say one is a very symbolic, and this is, I guess, kind of a representative, and it's ringing the bell here at Luther. One of our most cherished traditions centers around the campus bell. It's a historic landmark in the heart of campus. Every new Luther student will ring the bell during their welcome week and convocation to kick off their kind of symbolize that the beginning of the Luther journey. And then 4 years later, when it comes time for commencement and graduation, marking both the end of their Luther journey, but also a new beginning, they will ring the bell again. And so it's a really cool, fun. Faculty are outside, staff are there cheering them on. Even alums will come back and watch and take pictures, obviously, about the bell. So the bell was a symbol in one of the buildings that unfortunately burned down not just once but twice. But when
Oh,
we've been able
no.
to keep the bell, and again, I think that's been just a legacy from various traditions and year over year hallmark of what we've been able to do.
Wow. So, did you guys have two fires or?
Well, it was one of our it's these are decades ago, so it's been a long time ago, unfortunately. But glad that we've been able to preserve the bell and now turn this into kind of a symbol of positivity for the campus.
Yeah, it's so resilient. You can't kill that bell,
No,
you
you
know.
can't. You can't.
The fire has
It,
tried
it
twice.
is. No, I mean you're
Yeah.
asking about traditions and stories, and so this
Hmm.
has been it's been fun to be able to share that and tell some of the folklore of Luther College.
Hmm. I wanted just to circle back because I realized I didn't give this enough emphasis, but to your music department. So, I mean, for the 15% of your students who are music
Yeah.
majors, tell me about the opportunities that they have.
Oh my gosh. Music here is amazing, and so let me give just again, if we're going to talk a little bit just about history and like longevity. The Luther College Concert Band has been touring the world for nearly 150 years.
Wow.
And so we've had conductors and composers and faculty that are just have long tradition and passion and care for band and choir and orchestra. This is a place where we are able to attract then really top-notch music faculty and students to be able to perform at the highest level, collegiately speaking. And then they go on to do amazing things and perform in operas and other national symphonies and do really such really good work. So there are regional touring opportunities where I know they're at a trumpet ensemble that just toured down in Iowa City and Des Moines and Cedar Rapids, and they had 27 trumpeters that were
Wow.
basically they had to rent a bus to be able to haul everybody and all of their instruments to be able to do that. So that's one small piece of music at Luther, but it really is a special tradition in place to be able to kind of go through that hall, and it sounds like School of Rock at times at night when you go in and listen to what's happening.
Mhm. Now, are those audition-based programs to be admitted to?
For scholarship purposes, yes. However, last year I think we brought on nearly 70 students that didn't audition for scholarships and that were still part of that first year cohort that wanted to participate in some of the jazz ensembles or choirs, etc.
Mhm. That's great. So, tell me a little bit more about, like, and I know this is always hard to talk about nowadays, but like the political scene on campus. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we're more polarized than ever. And how is that handled at Luther? How are the kids doing with all of this?
Yeah, great question. Um, it is a challenging time in with respect to trying to address difference and perspectives. And I think at Luther, our goal isn't necessarily to tell these students what to think or what to believe, but to help them learn to think critically and to listen carefully and no matter what the topic, to be able to provide spaces for rigorous dialogue and to be able to then follow up to help to make sense of their own values and beliefs. So I think that's we've worked hard with student groups, we worked hard with faculty, and what I mean by that is that we've openly provided platforms and topics and some conversation tables to be able to do this in a respectful and informed manner, probably more rooted in curiosity than obviously anything else. That's kind of how we've handled it here at Luther, and don't claim to be perfect, and so still trying to figure out other ways that we can do this in a way around every topic, not just
Yeah.
politics.
Well, I think that when you're in like a smaller, like more close-knit community, like I feel like those like differences of opinions don't get as fiery or strong
Yeah,
because it's like you're talking about the guy who lives down the hall from you and what he
yeah,
thinks. And you like, you have breakfast with him every day. So, it's just a much more like close-knit,
yeah.
emotionally you respect the people regardless because you know them kind of situation.
Last week I had a chance to meet with some of our leaders, student leadership here, and a variety of topics that got brought up and things that they want to do and accomplish. And to your point of that, there were some students that had opposing positions and thoughts about what they should do. And at the end, what they shared though was that they were, I'm just pleased that they were able to keep the dialogue active and engaged, and they were able to then explain how they're going to continue to move forward and really to do this in a respectful manner that allows people to voice their opinions. And so
Hmm.
that's been, yeah, it's been a really good thing, a good activity, and I was really pleased to hear the students be able to share that exactly how you're kind of describing with neighbors and friends.
Yeah. So what would you say like are the characteristics of the ideal Luther student?
Wow, the ideal Luther student from my seat in the enrollment area, both intellectually curious and this sense of connection. I think individuals that want to learn deeply and live purposefully will thrive, and can thrive here at Luther. This is someone who may obviously demonstrate academic motivation through their genuine curiosity about whether they know exactly what they want to study or not, but they're willing to put in the time and the effort and everything else that the learning requires to succeed. Equally important, I would say, though, as I go back to that sense of connection in that spirit of community, where Luther thrives when students participate in the classroom, in the campus programs, in lively discussion and campus life and service to others. That's really where I think the ideal student for Luther can celebrate.
Yeah, so not somebody who wants to just stay in the room all the time and not be involved in their community.
I and that we my team of admission representatives often talk about that, and as much as we would, we'll do our best to counsel those students, but no, this is a place that the more they lean into the programs and opportunities and ask questions and learn to get a little uncomfortable again, that idea of upbringing, this is a great place, a safe place where students can come and learn.
Mhm. Okay. That's great. Now, so with nursing, you mentioned 3.3 GPA being sort of like the floor of admissions for that. Are there other like criteria for admission for other programs or the student population at large?
So admission requirements at Luther, we require obviously a formal application. We're on the Common App. We also have a Future Norse application, and we will ask obviously for their academic transcripts. And so those are the two requirements. We are test optional. We also highly recommend a personal statement so that we can get to know the students better as we're talking about individual characteristics and motivation. If they have a letter of reference, we would also ask and accept that. But those are optional for purposes of admission.
And then what is your average like admission rate per year, percentage
Yeah,
wise?
it's about 68 to 70% acceptance rate. I think last year the average high school GPA was a 3.64, with a average ACT for those that did submit it was around a 25.
Mhm. And then, so nursing, there's just limited spots.
That's correct. A lot of it, yeah. The average class size here at Luther is only about 15 students. And so to be able to have enough space and really to be able to provide, we have a beautiful simulation lab for our nurses. But because of that, to be able to provide that hands-on learning with personalized instruction, it really comes down to limited spots and space there for the nursing program and for others as well.
Mhm. Now, you mentioned earlier some music scholarships. Tell me more about that process.
Yeah, so glad you asked on that one. Luther is fortunate to be able to offer a variety of talent-based scholarships, one in the area of music. We have music performance, and those can range from $3,000 up to full tuition. And so covering basically with a variety of institutional and sources of funding to be able to do that. There is an audition component, a student needing to perform and allow our faculty then to be able to listen and hear how they've done. And that would then be stacked on top of their merit scholarships.
And then, is there more general merit aid that you offer for, you know, the regular
Yeah.
folk, I guess?
Yeah, no, no, and this is for everyone, right? These for eligible admitted students, scholarships range between $30,000 to $37,000 per year. These are renewable, merit based. This is part of our value of making it more affordable and accessible. And so there are other awards that could be stacked on top. I mentioned a campus visit award. Again, to come and see and believe all of the beautiful things that are happening here in Northeast Iowa. We feel it's important for that families get a chance to actually come and interact and see the community in full effect.
Yeah. So, how would a person get to Decorah? What are the typical ways of finding your way there?
Yeah, start with a map. No, well,
Oh, well, I'm out.
yeah. uh, we are right off of Highway 52, and so Minneapolis St. Paul is about 2 hours and 20 minutes directly north of Decorah, Iowa, and we are just 10 minutes south of the Iowa-Minnesota border. And so parts of this may even feel more similar to Minnesota for us Minnesotans, or just southwest of La Crosse, Wisconsin. So kind of right in this corner of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin all together. Most will drive. We have some shuttle services for students during breaks to bring them to the Twin Cities or Rochester or La Crosse to be able to help them return home during breaks and holidays. But as you mentioned at the outset, it's a hidden gem, and we're ready to make this less hidden and put it on the map.
Yeah. And I think the visit, it does sound like it's one of those places that, you really have to go there to really appreciate the value of the school. So I'll have to break my map out at some point soon.
We love to have you. I'd show you all of my favorite hot spots around here.
Yeah. So, and where do your students typically come from? Are they mostly Midwestern, or, I mean, you mentioned like international students, obviously, but for your domestic students?
Yeah, great question. So about 70% of our students come from the four-state region of Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. We also have about a 15% international student body. So we have some long-standing partnerships with international high schools overseas, and we have roughly just shy of 200 total international students on campus. The rest of the student body comes from, again, almost 40 some different states throughout the U.S. So from California to North Carolina and Florida over to Texas and Arizona, we see broad interest.
Mhm. That's great. Any other things that I haven't asked about that we should all know about Luther College?
Other things to know. You've hit on a lot of the headlines and highlights here, and so I'm so grateful for the time and attention. Come visit, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Where this really is a truly special place, and as a parent of two young boys, and I think about colleges that I'd like to ultimately encourage them to consider, not just for the academic program offerings, but truly for the spirit and community and pride that is
Hmm.
instilled here. Come check us out.
That sounds great. And I've heard that just that the campus is beautiful too. I know we didn't really say that explicitly, but the campus is beautiful and the area is beautiful, and you can go hiking and you can go kayaking and you can do all the fun outdoor things as well, right?
I don't know many other campuses that you can launch a canoe from their campus here, but this is one of those here. And you're absolutely right. It's recognized regularly for the campus beauty, and not just the college, but the town of Decorah as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and so Decorah sounds really cute from what I've heard.
Yes, you're not the first, and I think others would agree that it's been recognized. In Architectural Digest recently has identified Decorah as being one of the top small towns in America. Thrillist has identified Decorah as one of the must visit town in Iowa. And so there's some other cool accolades, and it's been a great place to be able to visit and live in now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I really hope that our listeners will check you out and go visit and see that the Midwest is just not all flat. Um, and just appreciate all the community and the beauty there.
Thank you so much for today and the opportunity. Appreciate it, Lisa.
All right, thank you.
Friends, if you heard last Monday, you know I'm doing a series of monologues in order to make sure my communication is crystal clear. Last week, we discussed prestige. This Monday, we'll talk about selectivity. Is it important or not important? How do you evaluate selectivity? We'll cover that and a range of other things related to selectivity. Then transition to hearing from Kate Strickland again. Last week, we talked about what do seasonals do? And Kate shared how you become one. But this week, we mostly talk about how does CU Boulder shape their class. We also cover some other topics as well. And friends, I close you out with a quote from a baseball legend. We're going back about 100 years almost to Babe Ruth. Here's what Babe Ruth said. It's really hard to beat a person who never gives up. It's really hard to beat a person who never gives up. See you on Monday, friends. And that's our show. Big thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning in this week. If you find this podcast helpful, please follow us and you will get every single episode as soon as they are released. If you want to support our podcast, you can click the share button and send it to your friends and acquaintances. You can say positive things about your college-bound kid on your social media feed. And you can help us stay commercial-free and pay our staff by donating on the yourcollegeboundkid website. You can write a review for us on Apple or Spotify. And if you have a question or a recommendation, just go to speakpipe.com/YCBK, hit the orange button, and speak. We will do our best to get your question in your own voice on an upcoming episode. I am the producer of the podcast, and I live in Metro Atlanta. We have a fantastic team that has over 200 years of admissions and counseling experience. Shout out to our co-host, Dr. Lisa Ruff in North Carolina, Susan Tree in Pennsylvania, Vince Garcia in California, Julia Esquivel in Massachusetts, Linda Depker in Missouri, Andy Strickler, the Chief Enrollment Officer at Connecticut College, New London, Connecticut, Hillary Dickman, an Admission Officer at Colorado College in Colorado Springs, and our International Admissions Expert, Kevin Newton in Dallas, Texas. Our sensational sound engineer is Nemanja Motvich. Our amazing music is from Victor Allen Weeks. Marketing designs from Kimberly Bloss. Our reliable webmaster is Stylionis Dimitru. Website updates are done by Joyce Stucker. Our image editor is Vlad Honchar. If you want to have a coaching session with me, just text me at 404-664-4340. If you want to reach someone else on our team, all of our bios with contact info can be found at yourcollegeboundkid.com under the About YCBK tab. If you want to get our free monthly YCBK newsletter, YCBK Plus, it is also under the About YCBK tab. If you want to see our recommended books and websites, they are on our website under the Resources tab. While you're on our website, check out our hundreds of interviews in their entirety. Check out our college spotlights, our blog, and our upcoming events. We think of you as our listening family, and we look forward to meeting with you every single Monday and every single Thursday.